Hi everybody, this is Jackie from Jacqueline Ann Designs. I want to warn you ahead of time, we may end up with a visitor. My dog Sweetie Pie's a little active tonight. You're going to probably hear her throwing her own ball in the background, things like that. Anyway, she's been in a good mood and wanting to play, and we have been, but she would like to play incessantly. So tonight, I'm going to kind of quickly go through the progress so far, because I have done some things off camera on the Christmas journal that I've been working on. So I'm going to do that and kind of show you where I'm at, and then we're going to bind the signatures into the book, sew them into the book. So that's where we're at tonight. And so you can see, if you remember the last time you were with me, we put together the cover. And I wish the cover and what it looked like showed up as well on the camera as it is here in real life, but it doesn't. So anyway, so right now I'm going to open it up and take out the signatures, because that's where I've been working since we were last together. And mainly I've been deciding where my papers are going to go, what papers are going to go in the first or second signature, because I made a decision to have two signatures. And if you remember, a signature is just simply a grouping of your papers. Okay, so and I do think I have too many papers, but I am going to bind them into this book anyway and see what happens. I think personally the journal that I'm making is going to end up being an alligator journal. Excuse me, my little helper just threw her ball at the camera. So 1 second. Anyway, so hopefully you guys can still see. It's weird filming something and you cannot tell what you have on the camera. So my apologies. Let's see if I can straighten it out here. That might be better. All right. So anyway, So I ended up deciding, and you may have noticed this the last time we talked, the only scrapbook paper that I'm using on the pages is I like to make signature covers. And as I've mentioned in the past, sometimes there's scrapbook paper, sometimes there's cardstock, sometimes there's a decoupage and collage that I did. And today, I just liked the prints on these, so this is what I decided to do. So I'm going to kind of show you what I've been doing. I've been edging my papers with ribbon and fabric pieces, different things like that. I like the look of that, and this is going to be kind of an eclectic journal, so I just thought it would look nice to have these. And I like the look of the pages being uneven, things sticking out. So I'm kind of strange in that regard, but that's what I look. Now, most of these I sewed on, but I wanted to show you with this first signature cover. This is just a tiny little red ruffly ribbon. I just thought it was so cute. This is from Stampin' Up, but I am certain if you watch your craft stores, things like that, you could find something similar. It's just a cute little ruffled ribbon, and I glued this on, and you can see it looks pretty good. There's no sewing on the inside. Now, all the rest of them that you're going to see, I have sewn on. I like to sew in my journals. I've learned through some journals in the past that it gets gluey and sticky, things like that. So this is the piece of notebook paper that I tea-dyed. I just put, it's kind of a gold silken ribbon. It's sewed on there. These are ruffles that I made out of fabric scraps. I bought fabric scraps off of Amazon. They're Moda fabric scrap bags. And you just Google that, or go onto Amazon and do a search. And this was way back in the summer that I bought these holiday scraps. And I'm telling you, I have just really been enjoying having them while doing this journal. That's what I made my outside and my inside spine cover with. So, and you're going to see, I'll point them out. I've got ribbon or ruffles that I've edged some of my pages with in here that I have made from some of those scraps. So this is some Christmas music, The Babe of Bethlehem, and I put a page edge on there with a ruffle. This is a vintage book page, and you may not be able to see too much. It's on the here, but it's just a little bit of like a transparent kind of glittery gold ruffle. And then this is just a piece of manila paper, plain manila paper. And I put some lace that I thought kind of had a vintage look to it. This is a fold over that will end up, it's the other part of a paper bag, you'll see. That's on the rest of the there, and I've just folded it over, and that'll end up being a tuck when we're done. This is a piece of vellum, transparent vellum paper, and I have an idea of how I'm going to decorate that page. And this is some of the same fabric that I put on the outside of my book. This is some of the paper that we tea dyed, if you remember our video on tea dyeing. This is just graph paper like you would get at Walmart. And I put this, I liked this, plus I was trying to use it the last of this bit of kind of a trim that I have. It's not really a ribbon, it's a sort of trim. And then this is just some of the tea dyed paper that I made. And I just put this gold trim on the edge. And as you go through the book, it's just the other side of the pages. So they're all done the same way. And then if you get into the second signature, it's very, very similar. You know, gold here. Now this one, the back, I put another piece of that trim on there. And here, that same little tiny ruffly ribbon, I sewed this on. And here I took some red ribbon, kind of, and I turned that into a ruffle. I liked that. This is more of my scrap fabric, and I turned that into a ruffle. And like I said, I like the frayed edges of it. That's just what I like. Now this side's going to have a tuck on this outer edge, so I don't really need anything there. And this is a page from a book on florography, flora and fauna. And this will have a tuck on it, as I said. But this side, I put some of that old-fashioned, what I think looks like old-fashioned lace. And then this is some of the vintage book page. This is another envelope. This is a piece of ledger paper. And I've got on each side of it some more of that fabric scraps that I've turned into ruffles. And this one, and then the other side of it is everything is the same as the first page. Now I want to take this page out here and show you real quickly. Call it hinging. And what basically I had two small pages that there was no way that you could get in there. So, because, you know, you need more length to have something down the center to fold and to sew into your book. So what I did was I took washi tape. Now, you never trust the stickiness of washi tape. But I love it for hinging my pages. Sometimes it's decorative. Other times, like this, it's kind of a semi-transparent, or it goes with the theme. And other times it's just because it's easy. So what I did was there's like 3 rows of washi tape here. And then I took it to, and you don't have to, you can use glue. But what I did after I stuck all the washi tape down, just using the, like I said, not very good stickiness of the washi tape, is I just took it to my sewing machine and stitched it in. I put a straight stitch right down the middle and then a zigzag stitch on each edge of each page. When you sew, if you choose to do any sewing in your journals, be sure and stretch your stitches out a little bit, make them longer and a little bit wider. Otherwise, it becomes just like a page. You know how you can buy paper that's serrated so you can just tear it apart real easy? Well, that's what it's going to do to your paper. If your stitches are too tiny and close together, your paper, you're just going to be able to reach over and pull it apart just like a roll of stamps. So I suggest that you don't do that. And you can see I've got music in both of these signatures. Angels We Have Heard on High in this one. And then more of the page ruffles. Another type of red trim right here on here. So you can see that. And then some more of the little tiny red ribbon. I really liked that ribbon. So those are my signatures. And I have about decided that I am going to put this one in the front and this will be the second signature. Why? I don't really have a good rational reason. Now, one of the things you need to do first is get your book ready to get your, I'm going to put my signatures over here aside for just a moment, is get your book ready. And you remember you're going to be putting, now if you're putting a single, I'm going to open my book so I can show you what I'm talking about. Okay, hope you can see me. Now I like to make a paper pattern. And there's all sorts of ways that people do this. And I can already see mine's off a little bit. Let's see if I can fix that. Okay, so what you need, pin back on here so I don't, is just marks on a piece of paper so that you put the holes in your book cover and also in the same place in your signatures, so they'll match up when you go to sew them in. Okay, now, so make certain that you're approaching your book from the true top and the true bottom. And then you're going to put this wherever you want. Now, if I were just putting, now some people have this exact measurement. They've got these special tools. I tell you, I bought the special tool and for putting in the holes. And I found it cumbersome and it made it twice as hard for me. Okay. So what I do, and you can sit there with a ruler and make your dots. That's actually really easy to do. Or you can, if you're good visually, you can kind of estimate. I have a tendency to be really bad about putting mine too low in the book. I don't know why, but I do. So I have to pay special attention to make sure that I am getting the holes where everything's kind of centered in the book. I like for there to be a little space at the top and the bottom. Other people like for theirs to be much closer to the edge of their signature than I do. So that ends up becoming a personal choice. But I do mine this way. Now, if I was only putting in one signature, I would use this middle dot to put my holes in. Okay, but I am putting in 2 signatures. Now, when you go to punch your holes, I'm well protected. I have got a self-healing mat here. But sometimes you need to have more underneath there than that. Like a pad of paper, different things, you know, and a pad of paper that you don't mind sacrificing, because you're going to go through here and you can very easily damage whatever's underneath with this awl. Okay, now this is an inexpensive one. I have a wooden one as well. This is just the one I got out. But now, since I'm putting in 2 signatures, I actually need to use these ones on the side. See here, there are 3. I think the middle one shows up better on camera. But see here how there are 3 holes. Okay? So I won't use the middle one because, you know, I need them. Since I'm putting 2 in, I use the ones on the side. And you just simply use your thing. And punch your hole in. That's all there is to it. Punch your hole in. And this is a pattern. It's all this piece of paper is. It's where I made a pattern. Now sometimes I find I have to, when I take my pattern off, I have to go ahead and, now I have a big giant hole puncher that I use a lot of times to put holes in. So it really depends upon what you're making your journal out of and the look that you're going for and how big a hole. When I use the big giant hole puncher, you know, what it is it's got a big mouth on it that's big enough to go all the way to the end of this, of a bound book. So if you used a regular hole puncher, it wouldn't work. But it's the We Are Memory Keepers. I think it's called the Big Mouth. I can't remember. But on one of our journals coming up soon, I'll use it so you can see. But I like to use eyelets when I do that because it makes a big hole and I just think it makes it look nicer. Now, if you look here, you won't be able to see it on the camera, but I'm going to show you. See, on here, my awl, I hope you can see it on the camera. Here's where my awl is coming through the other side. I usually go through and make my holes just a little bit bigger once I get my pattern off. But do make sure you're going through the hole that you put there so that your stuff ends up in the right place, okay? So there's that one. See, I'm doing the same thing here. It's actually going through my ribbon. And it's not hard to do. If me with the arthritis in my hands can do this, pretty much anybody could do this. Okay, so then we're gonna take the holes here again. I'm just going through and making them so that I can actually get my needle through there. Okay. Those up there, they got mixed in with the little words, so they're a little bit hard to see. I'm going to take this electric plug off of my phone. There's a lot of battery here. It's getting in my way. All right. Now, and then we're going to finish up the holes up here. So they're definitely big enough. Okay, here we go. The second hole for the top. All right. So our holes, we've got our holes there. That bottom one here doesn't look like I got it quite as big as I did the others. There we go. Okay. Now, this other piece, the next thing can be fairly challenging. And the reason for that is, one, keeping all your papers together. I forgot them for some reason, my clamps, but it's very helpful to clamp your paper up in here. But I forgot mine. But let's go ahead and move my book for just a moment. Just there. And what I'm going to do is, the first thing, now here on the paper covers, we're going to use the center lines, okay? In our signatures, I mean, we're going to use the center lines and get this centered on here as best you can. And then when you use the center line, what I'm going to do is put a little hole, just go through here and put a little hole. And then here, and right now I'm just making a mark. And I'll tell you why here in a moment. If you leave your book, your signature flat like this, and depending on the shape of your cover, the same thing can happen to your cover. You'll end up, when you get done here, your holes will end up in really awkward positions. So now that I've got my line, my little pages marked, I'm actually going to bend my signature so that I can actually get that hole coming here on the crease. Otherwise, it could go off to the side. There's no telling where, okay? So I got my middle hole. And then we're gonna do the same thing. See, we're coming out on the bend of the paper. We're putting the, and it can be, I'm not gonna lie, a little challenging to get your needle through there. But you're going through all the papers is all you're doing, and you're doing it with the paper in a bent position. Now they do make, and I do want one of these. It's like a cradle that you put your signature down into, and then you punch your holes, and you end up, but I seem to end up with pretty good spots as it is. Now I don't punch my holes until right before I'm gonna sew that particular signature in, because inevitably I'm very clumsy and things get out of alignment. Now I had decided this was going to be my first signature, so we're going to put that one in first. Now people use all kinds of thread to sew in their signatures. Some people use embroidery floss. There's nothing wrong with that. They use kitchen twine, upholstery thread. Traditionally, bookbinders use a wax thread. And I have discovered that's what I like to use. It makes sort of its own seal whenever you tie the knot, so the knots don't come undone, and I like the strength of it. Now, you do need to have a needle with a big eye on it in order to use this. So that's something for you to consider. Now, people say how much thread do I take off? They say, oh, take off 3 times the length of your book. So I usually take off like 3.5 to 3.5. And then I just cut it. Now, some people leave theirs on the roll. That's just a little bit too awkward for me, so I don't. Now, I have trouble sometimes getting my needles to thread. Even though this is a huge eye of the needle, it's just me and my vision. But today, and I'm using I like to use a darning needle because of the size of the eye. Now, you're not going to put any kind of knot in it, anything like that, all right? Now, we're going to be using something called the Pamphlet Stitch to put in our signatures. So first thing you're going to do is go over here and go through the holes that you've already punched. Sometimes you have to kind of go through like I'm doing. Now remember, once you get your antique and vintage paper and even some of your tea-dyed paper in here, it actually strengthens it a little bit. At least that's my personal opinion. But while you're doing this, while you're running the needle through here, it can easily tear. Okay, now since this is going to be your first signature, you're going to go to the hole here that's closest to your front cover. Okay, so that for me, that's this hole right here. So and you're going to start with the center hole. Okay, you just take it through. Now, I like to have quite a bit of thread hanging out because I like to put little dangles in the center of my signature. I would make enough thread hanging out anyway when you're first doing it because you're going to need something to tie off anyway here in a little bit. So just let that hang down. And then here I find this part the hardest. But I'm going to go up here. Remember, I'm going through the hole that's closest to my front cover because I'm putting my first signature in. And then you're going to go through here and look for your needle coming through. See it coming through here? Okay, and you just pull it through there. Don't worry about tightening anything up yet. Do try to make sure that you get the end of your thread. There you go, your thread through. Now this next part, I find it hard. Some people, you have little pokers that they put in their signatures so that it's easier for them to find the holes again. Let me see here. All right. So I just start, but here's what I do is I just start. So I'm going to go through the hole that I made and then just kind of go through the different papers as I come through them. See, it went through those. And it's because I don't want to tear anything is why I do it this way. And then, now, you know, a lot of the papers that you put in your journal are not the same length. So you need to be really careful that you've caught them all. So that, one, they're not going to tear up. But two, so they'll be in your journal for you. All right, now, this one was caught, even though it's a shorter page. You can see it's stitched in. It's going to hold fine through the middle there. And then we're going to go through the hole here. Now, some people are really good. They just seem to be able to go through all the holes at once. They never miss. That isn't me. I end up having to go through. Now, I'm going to tell you, you can bind your book too tight when you're dealing with vintage papers, and then it just tears your papers up. And I have made that mistake, and I'm sure I will make it again in the future. Oh, see, I just tore my paper because I let my paper get caught. I think it'll be all right. Be something I can repair later, but be more careful than I was there. See, I just really tore that paper. All right. So when we're doing our page decorating, I am going to have to pay special attention to that graph paper and get that fixed. All right, so this is our center paper. Now when you're putting your signature together, I really enjoy on my center paper something that's strong enough that I can do the focus of that signature on that center paper. Like I'm planning on for this one of the signatures is I'm gonna do a focus on angels, and then the other one I'm gonna do a focus on the nativity. I haven't decided exactly what I'm gonna do yet, but that's what I'm gonna do. Now, the next thing you're going to do is pull this all up. Remembering to be careful. Don't do what I did with that graph paper and tear your paper. Yeah, you need to have everything a little bit tighter than I was keeping it. All right. So you don't run into that issue. All right, now I want to show you what the back is looking like so far, okay? Okay, now we're going to go down from there, and you're going to go down to the third hole, okay? At the very bottom of the page. And let's see if I can do a better job this time of going through. I always do have a little bit easier time going this other direction, but all right. And you're going to notice some of your modern day, your thinner papers, especially once you've tea dyed them. And then there was a period of time in the late 1700s, and another time that occurred later on in the 1800s, where the really cheap papers were used. And it's kind of like right now we're using a lot of really cheap papers. And when they do that, and you're using vintage papers, I mean, they weren't making that paper to be here for us junk journalers several hundred years later, okay? But what you need to do is just keep in mind that they're going to be very, very fragile. All right, now what I want to do is we are going to go back through our middle hole again, and you want to be careful not to split your thread. And believe it or not, that's easier said at times than done. Did I split mine? No, I didn't. Okay. And that's not the only time that you risk that. You're going to risk it all the way. And the reason being, and I did actually split it. It wasn't evident to me, but this, I can fix it. It's really hard to get a good tie at the end if your thread is split. Let's see if I made it worse, or what am I doing here? I think I just made it worse. Oh, I don't want to have to unthread it and fix that. Well, this is real live recording, guys, so you're going to learn from Jackie's mistakes. It's just a real hassle if you, oh, I can see it's just a tiny little bit that it's gone through there. And I went back through the same split that I created instead of fixing it. Let's see if okay, I've got it fixed. All right, now let's see here. All right, we'll fix that in a minute. Because we're about to tighten everything up. Now, the tighter your string is, the easier time you're gonna have. So let's see if I can pull it tighter here. Get that, all right. The easier time you are gonna have and less risk of going through. Let's see if I can do it. I've only succeeded once going all the way through without either splitting see, I'm not going through the center, or just not going through to my center page. So I'm gonna have to pull it out just a little bit there. Okay, I went through those pages, and what I can see that you cannot see on the camera is my needle going through that tiny hole right there by my pinky finger. You can't see it on the camera, but I can. So far, so good. Now this is the paper that I tore the top. Now, I did it, guys. There's always. All right, and I didn't split the thread either. Wow, I don't think I did anyway. Now let's make sure everything is tight. And we got pretty good. Now you notice here how your thread is. You've got, okay, you've got the string going down the middle, and then you're gonna have these two ends. I'm gonna go ahead and cut my needle off. So, and then I've got two ends, okay? So you need one on each side of that center thread, of this center thread, okay? And this is where you're gonna find the big benefit. Later on, there's other benefits to using the wax thread. It doesn't end up stretching out like, say, embroidery floss stretches out. Okay, so then you're gonna tie, and I like to tie 2 or 3 knots. Now, like I said, I'm tying this fairly firmly, but you want it firm, but you don't want it too tight that the pages don't really turn. So you can like double check yourself by kind of doing that. Okay, so, and I'm gonna tie it like a total of 3 knots. 2, this might be 4, but just in case I'm gonna. Now, and then I leave my strings hanging there until I've got my charms or anything that I want here done, okay? So now we're gonna attach the second one through the second set of holes. 1 hole, 2 hole, and here's the 3rd hole. And once again, I'm gonna move this aside a little bit, and we're gonna punch holes in this one. Now this one, I need to figure out where that paper bag is, because I don't think I had it where I wanted it actually. All right. Just double check and make sure all your pages are right where you want them, especially if you're like me and your pages are not even. You know, you want everything to be right where you want it. Okay. All right, now we're going to punch our holes. Where'd our pattern go? Here it is. And I'm gonna go to the center of my signature, the center page. Which in this case, I did not want the center page to be that one. And so what you're about to see me do is a switcheroo. All right. Now let's see if I like it. Okay, yes I do. It's because I want the strength of this page. It's a heavy paper. And, okay, once again, I'm gonna use my pattern. I'm hoping you guys can see. And we're gonna put some little kind of guiding holes. Once again, you're trying to make sure they're in at least this top paper here, all right, and see here, This is an example of what I was trying to tell you about. See how my book is flat? I got one of them in the fold. The other two ended up on the side, so I'm going to have to go right beside them to make my actual hole. See now? Okay. All right, now, so let's turn this to the side and let's make my hole go all the way through. Come on, come through the fold. And it did. Okay. And let's do the hole at the top, same way. Just like we did on the other. Do the fold. Okay, see, we're in the fold. And then let's do the bottom one. Well, I can't see that one. Okay. Same thing, we want it in the fold. And it is. Okay. All right, now we're gonna sew this one in. Same deal. Where's my needle? Now this, of course, is not enough thread. By the way, I've actually used this thread in decorating. It's, you know, if you like your things looking old with lots of vintage looking ephemera, you would be surprised what you'd find for bits of string. You can tie them up and make some pretty bows. So that's one of the things about junk journaling, if your fingers are working better than mine are today, is you don't waste anything. You find a use for it. And that's a terrible bow, but I think you get my drift. All right, so now we're gonna cut 3. 1, 2, 3. And that wax, like I say, it kind of, like, see how I can press it into this and it holds itself? What it does when you tie it in your signatures is it makes like a seal there on that where you tie your knots at. And it's not very likely to come undone. Alrighty. Okay, I didn't have to use my needle threader. Which is kind of a miracle. Okay, now, so we are now going to sew it in here. So, same kind of deal here. We're going to go into our center signature. And we are going to start going through and getting this through here. I cannot find... And don't worry if you caught the very edge of a paper that's small, like I did here. I can't even see the hole here. I'm wondering if I didn't get it through there. I need to get this straight before I get any further. Because, I mean, I can fix it now. Oh, there it is. I can see it now that there's some light going through. Okay, I hope I don't, because I got these all loose, I hope I don't end up tearing anything again. Just remember to push this because you've got the hole in that already. Okay, so there's not really a good hole there. This hole, as luck would have it, it went right, I'm doing it, okay, it went right through the stitching. Okay, that's why you couldn't see it. Alrighty. And there's the hole there in the signature. And there's the hole in the cover. See, we're coming through. Coming through. That's what I always have trouble because I use a needle with such a big... Oh, and I just came through the wrong hole. All right, let's see. I think the easiest way... I've done this before. And let me tell you, the easiest way to solve this is just to de-thread your needle. Yeah, you need to come through the center hole, okay? All right, you end up with some sort of weird binding. You start at the top. I was practicing a different kind of a sewing stitch for a book that you start at the top. And I don't know if my mind reverted. I was watching a YouTube video on it, and I don't know if my mind reverted back to that, or I was just having a brain thing. I don't know. All right, so let's start over. All right, here we go. Well, here we are having a hard time seeing the hole in this thing again. Okay. It's just because of all that stitching I did. Now see, this is tracing paper. It's another one that's kind of frail. So, they say once it's bound in the book, you're not gonna have any, you shouldn't have any issues with it. But while you're binding some of those thinner papers. Okay, now we're going through our middle hole. It should come out in the right place. I have one journal in there that's I've totally bound upside down. I've got to take it apart and rebind it, resew. All right, so once again, we're looking in there and looking at the length of the thread. And this is the long thread here. This is the one you're going to be leaving behind. The short thread you're going to pull through. Now, so keep pulling that one through. Okay, which one's the short one and which one's the long one? There we go. Sorry, I wish I could get I wish I knew how to, I think if I had something other than my phone using it, you know, you guys would be able to see this better. So I probably need to learn how to use my other camera to do this. All right, now we're gonna go back through the hole again in the binding, in the spine. Okay, and then I don't know if we're gonna luck out and it goes smoothly, because actually for me, this is the part that I always have the most difficult with on all the journals, is the binding and making sure that I get the two signatures level with each other. Because you don't want one of them higher than the other. And I know you can't see everything that I am doing. I mean, I can't see what you can see, actually. I think that's why a lot of YouTubers like to do lives, especially the crafters. And they have or when they shoot their videos, they'll have a camera up somewhere where they can see. See, here's where it is. And this is the one we have trouble finding that hole for. It was kind of right in there. So I can get it through there. I don't know why this one was so hard to see the holes. Just because I don't want to mess that up. I'm going to try and pull that through. All right, now that little sheet there is primarily held in by the, not too worried about that. We're almost done with the, now the bottom one, because you've already got your other two signatures in, can either be easier to sew in. Uh-oh. That one turned around. That can happen with these short pages, and it can also happen with the paper bags. All right, let's figure out where our thread is over here. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now you're gonna go down to the bottom. I have to tell you that sewing in my signatures is my least favorite of all of the parts of making a journal. I love all the rest of the aspects of it, but I don't like sewing in my signatures. I don't know why, I just don't. Now, I have to tell you, I know one girl who does journals, and she just uses her needle as she's sewing. She pokes the hole into her cover, but when it comes to her signature, she doesn't poke the hole in ahead of time. She just sews, and with her needle as she's sewing, she then puts her holes into her journal. I mean, into her signature at the same time she's sewing. And I'm thinking I may personally give that a try. All right. Now we're gonna go and the dreaded center again. Trying not to split our threads. Let's take it part way through. Oh, wow, it looks like it's trying to go through the right place. So I can't tell if it's splitting my thread, though. I think it only went through the cover, or the outside of the cover. No, it actually didn't even, it's going underneath it. So, it just looked like it was going through there. But so far, I haven't split my thread, which is a good thing. See there, we're going through it. Okay, now we're through to that center thing again here. That hinged page that I've been having so much trouble finding the holes. Okay, there we go. Let's see where it's going on the inside. Now this page here, we really cannot mess it up because it's got, it really is counting on us to make sure it is sewn in correctly. Okay. See, we're not even anywhere near our hole there. Okay, I pulled it out somehow. Try it again. Don't split the threads on me, just go through the right place. So far, I haven't split the threads. I'm considering it a blessing that I haven't split the threads. All right, that time I took the needle through. Now see, this is also a difference in punching holes versus doing it with the awl. When you punch your holes, they're big enough that this, you still have to sometimes do a little bit of this, but they're bigger holes, so they are just much easier to get in. Now there are positives and negatives to the bigger holes too. I'm gonna tell you that right off. You know, because your thread is not as big as those holes. All right. Now, it looks like I did not split my thread. I'm gonna kind of, just so I don't lose that needle when you got a puppy around. All right, now let's pull everything tight. I did split my thread. See if I can unsplit it. Well, looks like I split it in more than one place. So, all right, easy fix this time. All right, now let's go back over here. Make sure everything is tight before we tie. And I can tell it isn't, because see how loose this is? Okay. I think we got it there. Out here and look on my spine. And I will show you at some point how to do one where it's a hidden spine. And there's floating spines. There's all kinds of neat things that you can do. And what you'll probably end up doing is finding what you like to do the most, and you'll do that most of the time. Or you might be like me, who changes their mind all the time, what they like the best. And I'm always proud of them once I get them sewn, but sewing the spine in is I'm always glad to get it done with. 2. And it's because of the process that you just saw. 3. All right, and once again, I like to have extra string hanging down. And all right, so this is my book sewn together, and you can see how thick it is already. And I haven't even got pockets and ephemera or anything in there yet. So, but it's going to be fun to work these pages and get them decorated. You can see I've already got tons of stuff made to either make ephemera, and you guys have been watching the videos, you know what I've made. And I've got some other things cut out and ready to go too. And I want to do some more pockets to put the ephemera in. I've only got one pocket made, and it's this pocket. I have shown it on another video, and it's going to be on the angel page that I do in one of the centers. Take you over here and show you. So it'll be like this in the center, and then I've got some tags and stuff to put in there that kind of focus on angels. And then I'm going to do something on this page as well. I don't know if it's going to be a collage or another pocket or a combination, but something else on this side. And then in one of the signatures, actually I'm probably going to do this in the first signature, because to me that's what Christmas is all about, is the nativity, the birth of my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that will probably be what I'm going to put in the center of the first signature, and then the angels will be the center of the second signature. So this page will be decorated. It'll look a lot different. So that's probably where this is going to go, okay? So we've got some interesting things coming up, and I hope you enjoyed this video on how to sew in your spine using the Pamphlet Stitch. Okay, that's what that one's called. There's another stitch that some people do, and I have done it in the past if I have lots and lots of little tiny papers, because sometimes you'll use smaller things and different things like that you want to bind in. And they're not going to end up getting caught. Like, see, this is in there good, even though it's, and so is this envelope. But there are certain sizes of papers that you may need to have 5 holes rather than just 3, and sew it that way, and that's a different stitch. So anyway, so this is the pages. We've got our book bound. I still don't feel comfortable cutting this all off yet, because I think this is going to be an alligator mouth Christmas journal. So I think it's going to need pretty long ties, and I don't know exactly where to cut them yet. Yeah, no, we're not going to need anything near this long, but I just don't know where to cut them. So for now, just because I don't want to mess it up, I'm going to leave those on. And I'm very happy so far with the way this journal's going. So anyway, we will see you guys on the next video. when we're going to start decorating our pages. Exciting. On to the next phase. I love the rounded way the spine turned out. Very happy so far with this. I'm kind of semi-thrilled about these snowflakes. But yet I like them at the same time. So they're okay. But so I'm pretty happy with it. And we'll see you guys on the next video. Love you guys. Bye-bye.